My wife cheated on me with our family lawyer, then stole $250, $0 from our joint account to pay her lover, and now she's trying to claim my inheritance. I never thought I'd lose everything over her lies. I never thought I'd see my life spiral out of control the way it did. One minute I was married to my wife of 10 years, the woman I thought I knew inside out, and the next, I was unraveling the shocking truth that she'd been cheating on me with our family lawyer, of all people. Honestly, the whole thing felt like a bad soap opera, but it was my reality. The betrayal was so deep, so unexpected. I still wake up some mornings wondering if I'm dreaming it all. It all started subtly at first. Had been acting a little different, more irritable, snapping at me over small things, avoiding intimacy, and disappearing for hours without explanation. I chalked it up to stress, her workload, maybe some midlife crisis stuff. She'd always been a bit bitchy when she was annoyed, but this was different. She'd snap at me over nothing, then give some lame excuse about being tired or busy. Still, I never suspected what was really going on beneath her shiny veneer. Things escalated when I noticed her phone always locked, more than usual. I'd catch her hiding it when I entered the room, or she'd quickly slide it under her pillow if I looked her way. She'd lie about it too. "It's just work stuff," she'd say, rolling her eyes. But I'd catch her texting late at night, and her messages always seemed secretive, coded even. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I felt a gnawing suspicion growing. Then came the financial signs. Had always been good with money. She managed our household budget, paid the bills, and kept a tight grip on our savings. But suddenly I noticed odd transactions. Small deposits here and there, which I initially thought were bonuses or freelance work she'd picked up. But then I saw a huge transfer, 250 disappear from our joint account. That was a lot of money, way more than she'd ever mentioned earning or saving. I asked her about it and she brushed me off, saying it was a mistake or some investment she was making without telling me. That was the first real crack in the armor. I dug around and found out she paid our lawyer, David, a hefty sum more than I'd ever paid him in legal fees. I remembered the last time we went to him about the house, and I'd seen whispering with him after the meeting. It seemed innocent at first, but now it felt like more than that. Something wasn't right. One evening I decided to follow her. I had a gut feeling she was hiding something. I waited until she left for her book club, which she'd been going to more often lately, and I followed her to a fancy downtown hotel. She went into a room with David, the lawyer. I peeked through the slightly open door and saw them kissing, her hands all over him, practically begging for more. I watched in disbelief as they slipped into the hotel room together, and I felt my stomach drop. That was the moment I knew she'd been lying to me about everything. I felt like my world was crashing down around me. How could she do this? To me, to our marriage, to our family. I couldn't believe she'd been cheating on me with our own lawyer, someone I trusted and who was supposed to be helping us. And the money, she stole it from our joint account to pay him off, probably for her little affair. I felt a mix of rage, heartbreak, and utter betrayal. I wanted to scream, to shake her, to make her see how much she'd hurt me. But I knew I had to stay calm. I had to figure out what to do next. After witnessing that scene at the hotel, I couldn't think straight for days. Everything I believed about our marriage, our life together, it all shattered in an instant. I kept replaying what I saw over and over, trying to convince myself it wasn't real. But deep down, I knew I had to confront her. I couldn't let her keep lying to me, especially after I'd seen her kissing David like he was some kind of prize she'd won. The next morning, I woke up feeling numb but determined. I decided I needed to get the truth out of her, no matter how much it hurt. I sat her down in the living room, trying to keep my voice steady. "I know what you've been doing," I said, watching her face twist with that fake, bitchy smirk she had whenever she was trying to lie her way out of something. "I saw you at the hotel with David. Don't bother denying it. I saw enough to know everything." Her eyes widened for a split second, then she quickly recovered, rolling her eyes and crossing her arms. "Oh, please, you're overreacting. You have no proof of anything. You're just being paranoid," she shot back, her tone dripping with contempt. "You're jealous, that's all. David's just helping me with some legal stuff, nothing more." I felt my blood boil. How could she be so callous? How could she lie so effortlessly, pretending she hadn't been caught red-handed? But I knew better than to get into a shouting match right then. If I wanted the truth, I had to be smarter. I pulled out my phone and showed her the hotel receipts, the messages I'd found, the bank transfer. Her face went pale, but she quickly masked it with that bitchy smirk again. "I was going to tell you," she said, her voice falsely innocent. "It's none of your business. I don't owe you an explanation about my relationship with David. And the money, it's for a legal case. I was trying to protect us." That was another lie. I knew she was lying. The money wasn't for a case. It was for David, for her to pay him off for the affair, to keep him quiet. I'd uncovered enough to see she'd been funneling our money into her own little schemes, and she thought she could spin her way out of it. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I told her I'd been checking our bank accounts, that I knew she'd stolen that $250, $0, and that I was done with her lies. Her reaction was a mix of anger and disdain. "You're crazy," she snapped. "You think you're so smart, don't you? Well, I don't need you. I'll take what's mine, and I'll make sure that inheritance is mine too. You're nothing but a stupid, gullible fool who's been played." That's when I realized her real plan. She was trying to manipulate the situation, to turn things around and make it look like I was the bad guy. She'd already spent the money, I was sure of that, and now she was trying to claim my inheritance, our family's estate, like she had some right to it. I felt sick. How could she be so selfish, so ruthless? I knew I had to act fast. I couldn't let her get away with this. I started gathering all the evidence I had, bank statements, messages, recordings from my phone of her lying to me, and I planned my next move carefully. I wasn't going to let her ruin me or take everything I'd worked for. I had to protect what was mine, and I'd do whatever it took to make her pay for what she'd done. In that moment, I realized this wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It was about justice, and I was determined to get it, even if it meant tearing my whole life apart in the process. Over the next few days, I threw myself into digging deeper. I knew was cunning, and I couldn't just confront her with half-truths or assumptions. I needed undeniable proof, something that would stand up in court if it came to that. I also knew I had to act fast before she managed to drain even more from our accounts or manipulate the situation further. I hired a private investigator, someone recommended by a friend who had experience with these kinds of situations. I didn't want to tip her off, so I kept everything quiet. The pie started tailing, following her to see where she went, who she met, and what she was really up to. Meanwhile, I kept a close eye on our bank accounts, credit cards, and emails. I felt like I was living in some kind of nightmare, but I knew there was no turning back now. The investigator came back with some explosive details. Had been meeting David in various hotels, not just that one time. She'd been secretly exchanging emails and texts, some of which I managed to get copies of, where she discussed the inheritance, the money, and how to cover her tracks. She'd even opened a separate bank account under a fake name, which she used to funnel money for her affairs and possibly to hide assets. I was stunned. This wasn't just a fling. It was a full-blown scheme to take what she thought was hers and leave me with nothing. The worst part was when I discovered she'd been secretly withdrawing large sums, more than I had imagined, using the stolen money to pay off her lover and to fund her escape plan. She'd been planning to leave, to start over somewhere else with the inheritance and the money she'd stolen. And all along she'd lied to my face, pretending to be the loving wife I'd known for a decade. I finally confronted her again, this time armed with evidence. I sat her down in the living room, my heart pounding. I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "I know everything. About the affair, the stolen money, the fake bank account. I know you've been planning to run away with David with our inheritance, and I won't let you get away with it." She looked at me with that same bitchy smirk, then scoffed. "You're overreacting," she said, brushing her hair back. "You're just jealous because I found someone who actually cares about me. You're too stupid to see you're just a loser who's been duped. I deserve better, and I'll get everything I want, including the inheritance. You don't have a say in this anymore." That was the moment I realized she was beyond saving. Her greed and selfishness had consumed her. She didn't care about the marriage, about me, or about the life we'd built. All she cared about was the money, the inheritance, and her new lover. I felt a cold wave of anger and disgust wash over me. I knew I had to take action before she managed to do even more damage. I contacted a lawyer, one who specialized in financial crimes and divorce. I handed over all the evidence I had collected, texts, bank statements, recordings, and explained the situation. I wanted to make sure she couldn't manipulate the legal system to her advantage. I also started documenting everything, her lies, her activities, her plans, to build a strong case. Meanwhile, I kept my distance, trying not to let her see how much I was hurting inside. I knew confronting her with the truth was just the beginning. The real fight was about to start, and I had to be prepared for whatever she threw at me. I'd been betrayed in every way possible by my wife, by someone I trusted, even by our own lawyer, and I was furious. But I also knew I had to stay calm, focused, and ready to fight for what was rightfully mine. The days that followed were like living in a storm I couldn't control. Of course, everything. She spun her usual lies, saying I was paranoid, that I was imagining things, that I was just jealous because she'd found someone who actually loved her. She told me I was crazy for suspecting her of stealing money or having an affair. She even had the nerve to accuse me of being controlling and insecure. Honestly, it was like talking to a wall. She was so good at playing the victim, I almost believed her for a second. But I wasn't about to let her manipulate me anymore. I had all the evidence now. Every text, every bank statement, every secret email she'd sent to David. I kept it all organized, ready to show the lawyer. I felt a strange mixture of rage and relief. Rage because she'd betrayed me so completely. Relief because I finally knew the truth and had proof to back it up. I realized that her lies were just her way of trying to stay afloat, to cover her tracks, but I was done playing her game. One afternoon, I decided to confront her again, this time with the lawyer present. I told her I was serious about taking legal action and that she needed to come clean. Her face twisted in anger. "You can't do this," she spat. "You think you're so clever, but you're not going to get anything out of me. I'll fight you every step of the way. You're just a stupid, naive husband who's too blind to see how much I've done for this family." I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "You stole $250, $0 from our joint account. You cheated on me with David, our lawyer, and you're trying to claim my inheritance. I don't care how much you lie or how much you try to spin this. I've got the proof and I'm going to make sure justice is served. You're not going to walk away with everything. You've already taken too much." That was when she really snapped. Her face turned red with fury. "You think you're so smart," she hissed. "You're just a weak, pathetic man who's too scared to face the truth. I'll ruin you if I have to. I'll take the house, the money, everything. You're nothing without me." I could see her desperation, her frantic attempts to turn things around, but I didn't care anymore. I knew what she was capable of. I knew she'd lied, stolen, and cheated her way through this whole marriage. I had to protect myself, my assets, and my future. I told her that I was filing for divorce immediately, that I was going to get a restraining order if she tried to interfere, and that I was going to fight for every penny she'd stolen. The next step was the court. I handed over all the evidence to my lawyer, and we filed for divorce, along with a claim for the stolen money and a motion to prevent her from claiming any inheritance until everything was sorted out. The lawyer warned me it would be a long fight, but I was prepared to see it through. I'd been betrayed so deeply, I didn't see any other way. His reaction was predictable. She threw a tantrum, yelled, accused me of ruining her life, and claimed I was the bad guy. But her words rang hollow. I knew her game now. She'd been planning her escape, trying to take everything she could. She thought she could lie her way out, manipulate the system, and come out on top. But I wasn't going to let that happen. I'd uncovered her secrets, and I was ready to fight for what was mine, my dignity, my money, and my future. I realized that the worst part wasn't just the betrayal. It was the realization that I'd trusted someone who was capable of so much deceit. But I also learned that sometimes you have to take matters into your own hands, face the brutal truth, and stand up for yourself. Because in the end, nobody else is going to do it for you, and I was done being a victim. The court dates came quicker than I expected. Was furious, of course, spinning her lies and denying everything. She tried to paint herself as the victim, claiming I was abusive, controlling, and jealous, all the usual manipulative crap. But I had the evidence. The texts, the bank transfers, the hotel receipts, even recordings from my phone of her admitting to the affair. I was ready. I knew I'd win this fight, not just because I had proof, but because I knew the truth. When the judge called the hearing, I sat there feeling a strange mixture of relief and dread. His lawyer made a big show of arguing her innocence, claiming she was entitled to the inheritance and that I had no right to accuse her of theft or cheating. But my lawyer laid it all out, showed every piece of evidence, explained how she'd been funneling money into her secret account, and detailed the affair with David, our lawyer. It was a brutal session. His face was a mask of anger and contempt, but I could see the flicker of fear behind her eyes. She knew she was caught, and she knew her lies wouldn't hold up. When the judge finally ruled, it was like a weight lifted off my shoulders. The court confirmed that had stolen the money, that her affair was proven, and that she had no claim to the inheritance until everything was sorted out legally. She was ordered to return the stolen funds, and her attempt to claim the estate was, at least for now. After the court, I felt a strange sense of emptiness. Part of me wanted to rejoice, to feel victorious, but another part was exhausted, emotionally drained from the of betrayal, lies, and legal battles. I knew this wasn't the end, was furious, and I could see she was already plotting her next move. She'd always been bitchy, manipulative, and ruthless, and I doubted she'd accept losing without a fight. But I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I'd learned a lot from this nightmare. I realized that trust, once broken, is almost impossible to repair. I learned that some people are capable of incredible evil, and that you have to be vigilant, even with the ones you love. The money, the affair, the lies, they all showed me how far someone can go when greed and selfishness take over. In the days that followed, I started rebuilding my life. I changed locks, froze her access to our accounts, and began the process of healing. I knew I'd need time, therapy, and maybe some help to truly move on. But I also knew I'd come out of this stronger. I'd fought for my dignity, my money, and my future. And I'd learned a hard lesson. Never ignore the signs, and never let someone betray your trust without consequences. Looking back, I wish I could say I feel nothing now, just indifference. But honestly, I still feel the sting of betrayal. Still, I know I'll be okay, because I fought for what was rightfully mine, and I'll never let someone like do this to me again. In the aftermath of everything, I've had a lot of time to reflect on how deeply I was betrayed and how I managed to pull myself out of the chaos. The truth is, I never thought I'd be the guy who'd get like this. I believed in honesty, loyalty, and the sanctity of marriage. Turns out, some people are just good at hiding their true nature. Showed me that when greed and selfishness take over, even the most seemingly normal person can become someone unrecognizable. Losing the money, the marriage, and the trust was devastating. I won't lie. There were nights I felt broken, questioning everything I'd ever built with her. But in time, I realized I had to focus on myself. I started going to therapy, not just to deal with the emotional fallout, but to rebuild my confidence. I also cut all contact with no calls, no messages. I needed to distance myself from her toxicity and focus on my recovery. The legal battle was draining, but it also taught me a lot about standing up for myself. I learned that sometimes you have to fight dirty, gather evidence, stay calm, and never let emotions cloud your judgment. I also learned that the people you trust the most can sometimes be the ones who hurt you the deepest. But I also found strength I didn't know I had. Now, months later, I'm slowly rebuilding my life. I've started a new job, moved into a new place, and reconnected with friends I'd neglected during the chaos. I've realized that I don't need someone who lies, cheats, and steals from me to be happy. I've come to accept that some betrayals are so profound, they change you forever. But they also teach you to be more cautious, more aware, and ultimately more resilient. Looking back, I'd tell anyone in a similar situation to trust their instincts. Don't ignore the red flags. When something feels off, dig deeper. And if you find out someone you love has been lying and cheating, don't be afraid to fight for yourself. Because at the end of the day, your happiness and integrity matter more than anyone else's lies. I may have lost a lot, but I Gained clarity. I learned that revenge isn't about hurting others. It's about reclaiming your life, your dignity, and your peace of mind. Took everything from me, my trust, my money, my marriage, but she couldn't take my resilience or my future. And I'm finally at a point where I can say I'm moving forward, stronger than ever, with lessons that will stay with me for the rest of my life.